Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you so much for coming. Welcome to how to prepare for home ownership and the home buying process. Just a few housekeeping items today. You're going to remain muted throughout the session. If you do have any questions along the way that you don't want to forget, feel free to go ahead and put them in the chat and we can talk about them at the end. Otherwise, just, listen along, and I hope to teach you a lot today. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Chimerew Winton. I am a real estate agent in the state of Texas. I'm also an affordable housing specialist in Texas, a pricing strategy advisor, as well as a certified probate real estate specialist. Some more about me. I'm originally from Michigan, a graduate of Tuskegee University in Alabama. I have a background in management, customer service, and training. I am the mom to one fur baby. His name is Baxter. He is cute but feisty, and he may decide that he wants to join in with our session today. I never know if he's going to plan that or not. Just so you know, I am currently in DeSoto, Texas, and I became licensed in 2018 after purchasing my first home through the NACA program, which we'll talk a little bit about later. And my ultimate goal in real estate is to help as many people become educated home buyers as I possibly can. And hopefully you will be one of those educated home buyers. All right, here's an outline of what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about what is your why for wanting to buy a home and the mindset behind it. We're going to talk about credit. We're going to talk about income, stability, and debt to income, cash reserves, savings, and budgeting, as well as financing, cash, and cosigners. There's also going to be some frequently asked questions at the end as well that may answer your questions. Or again, if you do have some questions at the end, that is when we'll talk about it. All right, so as promised, getting into our agenda here, what is your why? Why do you want to buy a house? Do you want to buy a house because you want independence? You want to be able to stand on your own? Do you want to buy a house because you want to have something for your family that's just for you guys? Do you want to buy a house to build wealth? Believe it or not, there is wealth in simply owning a home that you live in. Or do you have some other reasons like, privacy from a landlord or, neighbors with thin walls and just making it your own, being able to knock holes in walls or paint like you want, decorate how you want. Whatever that reason is, you'll want to keep that reason in the back of your mind throughout the entire process, just to make sure, you stay motivated during the home buying process. Now let's move on to the mindset behind home ownership or wanting to buy a home. You'll want to start thinking like a homeowner even while you're renting. So there's a totally different mindset that you have to have. It is a big responsibility that shouldn't be taken lightly. It is definitely beneficial, empowering, and rewarding, but you want to also be realistic. So, and also keep in mind that there are benefits to renting as well. So you'll have to kind of weigh those options and determine if the benefits to renting outweigh the benefits to owning your home or vice versa. And think about things like maintenance. If your home needs some maintenance, keep in mind that you don't have a landlord that you can call to say, hey, come fix this or come make sure this gets done. You are that person. So you have to take that responsibility to either figure out how to get it fixed or to know who to call to come fix it, what professional you would need to reach out to handle the maintenance that's needed on the home. You'll also want to keep in mind that you're going to have to take care of a yard. Whether it's a small yard or a big yard, there's going to be some trimming, some weeding, things of that nature that may need to take place. And that is going to fall on you. And you need to decide if you're going to be the one to do that, or again, if you want to hire someone to do the yard for you. You are also going to be responsible for knowing when major items such as roof repair, will be needed on your home. You don't necessarily want to wait until there's a leak happening to take care of your roof. You want to be proactive and stay ahead of the game on that, so that you get that taken care of when it's needed. And simple things that you may rely on a landlord for, that all falls on you now. So whatever it is, just know that you have to be the one to be able to figure it out. Again, that's why I have this course. These are the things that I want to bring to your attention so that you are fully prepared and able to take on the responsibility. All right, moving on to the next topic, which is credit. It is important to know your credit status and history, whether you're buying a home or a car or whatever the case may be. It's important to know and stay on top of what your credit looks like. You want to be sure to check your credit report annually, and that's to make sure that there isn't anything incorrectly reporting to the credit bureaus, or that there isn't any fraudulent activity on your credit report. Very important to make sure that you're checking for these things, because those things may seem minor to us, but when creditors are looking at those things, they are major to them. So you want to make sure that it's correct and that there's no fraudulent activity. You also want to have a good idea of what your credit score is. I do kind of teach a little course on credit as well, where I go a little more in depth, but there are different credit scores out there. But you should at least know a good range of where you are. It could be, are you in the excellent range, the good range, the poor or fair range? Just have a general idea of what your score looks like. And be sure to check your credit score often, because they change often. Depending on which bureau or where the credit score is being taken from, it could change daily. So again, you may look at your score and know the range, but you may have fallen into a different range the next day. Just kind of have an idea of where you stand. And do you know how to repair your credit if needed? If your credit has really taken a big hit due to some activity, do you know how to fix that? Or are you prepared to reach out to a professional to help you fix that? These are very important things to think about, especially when you're thinking about buying a home. All right, so here are some tips on improving and maintaining your credit. It may seem like it should go without saying, but always pay your bills on time. Now, reality happens, life happens, things will come up, and you may either forget or you just simply can't pay when the bill is due. So the next thing you would want to do is to call to negotiate a pay date or an amount if you're unable to pay. So if your bill is due on the 15th and the 15th comes, you have $0 or you have $20, call them and say, hey, I know the bill is due today, I don't have it, or hey, I only have $20 I can contribute. And they should want to work with you because they want their money at the end of the day. So be sure to call them and try to work something out, because that could help prevent them from reporting to your credit. All right, another helpful tip is to not close any old accounts. When it comes to your credit, the older the account is, the better. So worst case scenario, if an account should be closed, let the creditor close the account. Sometimes they may decide to close the account due to lack of usage. That is on them and not you. It becomes your issue if you decide to close the account. So you'll want to keep it open. If you just, don't like the credit card company anymore for whatever reason, you just don't want to use it, then just don't use it. But keep it open for as long as at least they'll keep it open, if that makes sense. You'll also want to not apply for any new credit, especially when you've made the decision, hey, I'm going to start the home buying process. You do not want to have any new credit because that could hinder your process or delay the process. I should say it won't stop it, but it may delay it. And for any available credit that you do have, try not to use more than 30% of what's available there. That's very important. But when it comes to your credit, the worst thing that you can do is nothing at all. So definitely be proactive in taking care of your credit. And just so you have it, I'll drop a link here on a resource that you can use to check your credit, which is the annualcreditreport.com. I've dropped it in the chat for you if you'd like to check that out. Another way to help maintain your credit is to obtain credit monitoring and identity theft protection. And that is actually a service that I provide, which is ID Seal. It does help you protect your credit through monitoring and alerts. It defends and protects your credit, protects your devices and personal data from cyber criminals. It'll help restore your credit and provide reimbursements towards your credit. It's definitely something worth looking into because you definitely don't want it to come to a point where you're in the process of beginning the home search or home buying process, and then some cyber criminal comes in and steals your identity. So this is an option that is available for you, and I'll drop a link in the chat as well for that if you're interested in taking advantage of that service. Next up on the agenda, we're going to talk about debt to income. Your debt to income or debt to income ratio is it's basically your monthly debt payments divided by your gross monthly income. This is one of the ways lenders measure your ability to manage your monthly payments to repay the money that you plan to borrow from them. Now, I think the highest DTI I've ever seen is 50%. But generally, it's better to have it as low as possible. You don't have to strive for zero debt. That is not considered realistic. It's more realistic for it to be low. So you definitely want to keep it as far under 50% as possible. If it's 10, 20, 30%, fine. Again, it's not expected to be zero. It's just expected to be low. So keep that in mind. And we'll look into a DTI or debt to income example here on how to calculate your DTI so that you have this information and you can determine this information yourself and already be ahead of what the lenders are going to be looking at. So to calculate your DTI, you're going to add up all your monthly debt payments, divide them by your gross monthly income, which is basically the amount of money that you've earned before taxes and other deductions are taken out. So, for example, if you pay $1,500 a month for your mortgage and you pay another $100 a month for your auto loan, $400 for all the rest of your debts, your monthly debt payments are $2,000. So again, the formula is debt divided by gross monthly income provides you with your DTI. So if your gross monthly income is $4,000, then your debt to income ratio is 50% because $2,000 is 50% of $4,000. So again, 50%, like I said, is just the highest that I've seen, but try to keep it as low as you can, just to help yourself look great in front of those lenders. All right, so another thing that lenders are going to look for is your income, and they're going to be looking at stability. Now, stability can mean a couple of different things. It can mean that you've been on your job for a certain amount of time, or it could be that you've been in a certain industry for a certain amount of time. So, for instance, if you're a plumber and you've been working at this plumbing company for the past 2 years, that may be considered stable income. However, if you're a plumber, but you switch from one plumbing company to another plumbing company within the last 6 months, just because you switched to a different company is not necessarily a bad thing because you're in the same industry. So, keep that in mind. Don't just think, oh, I switched jobs, I'm not going to qualify. Not necessarily. As long as you are in the same industry, you should be good to go. And even if you're not in the same industry, speak with a lender or your real estate agent can definitely refer you to a lender to find out what it is they're looking for as far as longevity and stability with the particular job. Excuse me. Also, what they're going to look at to verify the amount of time you've been on your job is check stubs. They're going to verify employment, however, your job provides that. They may even look at your tax returns if you are a W-2 employee. Now, if you're self-employed, similarly, they're going to look at your tax returns. They may also look at your bank statements and or profit and loss statements. So this is documentation you'll want to have readily available, or easily be able to put together when it's time for you to start the home buying process. All right, so now another thing that's important is cash reserves or savings. There's definitely expenses when it comes to buying a home. It's not just taking out a loan and that covers everything. No, there's other things that you're going to need taken care of. Even after you've closed on the house and the home is yours, some other things may pop up on the day you move in. You never know. So you'll want to have money saved. Lenders are actually going to look for you to have money saved because they know, just like, all of us have experienced the expenses that come with home ownership. So you'll want to have money set aside for home buying expenses like closing costs, etc. You'll want to have something set aside for unexpected repairs that may happen or may be needed. And of course, even just for your home furnishings and decor, because you're not going to be able to buy those things before you close, because again, you're not taking out any new credit, and a lot of furniture and decoration stores will want you to apply for their credit card, and it's very, very tempting, and people have fallen into that, and I definitely would not recommend that. And more, you just never know what's going to come up, so you want to have money set aside for those things. Now, we really get into things that can help with those expenses, like down payment assistance, closing cost assistance in part 2. So I highly recommend that you register and come to part 2, where we talk about those things a little more in depth to help you with your home buying expenses. However, that does not take away from the fact that you should save as much as you possibly can, again, because you just never know what's going to come up. Now let's talk about budgeting. Budgeting is going to be very helpful when you own your home. So if you're not already budgeting, you'll definitely want to start, because it's going to be very important to be able to manage your household expenses and savings when you are in your home. Now, how you choose to budget is going to be totally up to you and what works for you. Some people use budgeting apps, and there are plenty out there. Some, just off the top of my head, Mint, Personal Capital, and Honeydew are just a few budgeting apps that are out there. Again, there's plenty you can choose from. Some people just go old school, pen and paper. They write it down, they post it somewhere so that they know what their budget is for the month or the week, for that matter. There is also a rule called the 50-30-20 rule. That is an option for you. I pretty much like that one because it just helps me know how much to work with. So basically, 50% of your income is going to go to your needs, your bills, food, gas. Those are the things that you're going to need on a day-to-day basis. 30% of your income is going to go to your wants. You may want to go to a concert, amusement park, etc. Just something fun that you want to do, self-care, what have you. 20% of your income is going to go to savings. So again, that's just me, that if I were to pick between any of these, that would probably be the one that I choose, because it just helps me determine specific percentages of what my income is going to do for me. Another option that some people like is they'll use a spreadsheet, whether it be Excel or Google Sheets. They'll put their numbers in a spreadsheet, plug in the necessary formulas and go from there. again, you'll find what works best for you. If you try one and it's not working, get rid of it, try something else. If that one doesn't work, try another thing. But you definitely want to have a budget in mind. It is very, very important to know how much you make, first of all, to know how much you spend, and to know how much you save, especially when it comes to the home buying process. Now, again, something that we go into more detail about in part two, but just to give you a high level overview, is you have options when it comes to buying a home. You may go the traditional route, which most people do these days, is get financing through a lender, like we've been talking about. So if you go the route of financing, you start with a pre-approval. They're going to be looking for you to have no new credit inquiries. They're going to put you through underwriting and an approval process. You'll get an appraisal on the home you're looking to purchase. You'll get homeowner's insurance, and then you'll close on your home typically from between 21 and 45 days from the date that you signed the contract on the house. So that's a high level overview of how financing works when buying a home. If you are going the route of buying your house with cash, basically that process is the amount of cash that you have to buy the home is verified, whether it be through bank statements or something like that. And once that income is verified, closing can be in around 10 days, give or take. So just to let you know how those things differ and work. Another option that people use when it comes to buying a home is using a cosigner. Just as an example, a person that may use a cosigner is someone who maybe just graduated high school, decides to go to a community college, doesn't really want to live with parents, but they do have a decent enough job that they can afford it, but they don't have the credit to back it up. So they may use their parents as a cosigner who will agree to take on that financial responsibility of the primary borrower's loan if they are no longer able to make payments. It is a legally binding contract, and the lender can go after the cosigner for payment if that primary signer defaults on that mortgage. So that is something to be aware of if that is an option that you will choose. There's pros and cons to that, as with anything in life. So the pros might be that your credit score requirements are not as strict, because again, if you're fresh out of high school, was able to land a great job while also going to a local community college, you may not have a lot of credit built yet. It also helps you with your employment requirements. So again, if you just got out of high school, got a great job, you haven't been on that job long enough to support what the lenders are looking for. So that falls on the cosigner. And you have the potential for a bigger loan or even a cheaper loan, meaning cheaper by interest rate. So that is where the cosigner comes in on all of those bullet points. But then we get into the cons, which mostly also fall on the cosigner. The cons are that the cosigner is potentially responsible for those payments. Something crazy happens, the kid gets laid off, they no longer have that great job. So if they're unable to make those payments, the cosigner will be responsible for paying it. It may also be difficult for that cosigner to get out of the loan if something were to happen. It is a legal tie, and the cosigner's credit may also suffer. So those are pros and cons. Again, it's an option. Everything has a pro and a con. This is just one of those things that you have to determine if it works for you in your situation or not. And just as an FYI, both conventional and FHA loans allow for a cosigner. However, the requirements for each loan type differs. So just keep that in mind. Now we are at the portion where we discuss frequently asked questions. So I have a few here that we're going to go over. You may already have these questions in your mind. If not, again, once we go over this, I'll be happy to answer any of your questions. All right, so the first one we have here is, when is the best time to purchase a house? There is sometimes debate after debate on this, but I will tell you, my personal opinion is that the best time to purchase a house is when you are ready. You know, the market is going to do what the market is going to do. I'm not one of those people that say, oh, you should wait, or oh, you should hurry up and buy now. No, let's talk about it. Let's have a conversation. Where's your credit? What does your income look like? Is your income stable? We're going to talk about all those things. And if those things are in line and in order and you're ready to buy a home, then buy a home. Everything else we can work out later. So that is my answer to that question. Next question is, how long does it take to buy a house from start to close? That is also going to depend. That's going to depend on a number of things. It's going to depend on the market. It's going to depend on your personal situation and, even your financing in some cases. But just as an example, I used the example of the financing timeline, which was 21 to 45 days. Now, keep in mind that it's just the amount of time it takes from contract to close. However, how long is it actually going to take you to find the house that you're going to put under contract? And that is up in the air. You may look at 100 houses and not like any of them. Or we may be in a market where you're looking at 100 houses and you like all of them, but you're not winning any offers. It really, really depends. And it's going to be something that you're going to want to talk about when it's time to start. Hey, what is the market looking like? What is the realistic timeline that we may be working with to find a house? And that will be a better way to answer that question. Next question on the list is, what is the minimum credit score required to buy a house? That depends. So if you are an FHA home buyer, and FHA, of course, is for mostly first-time home buyers, but people don't realize that after 3 years of not owning a home, you're technically a first-time home buyer again. So nice little tidbit for you there. But if you're FHA, I believe the minimum credit score is 580. It may be a little lower, but I'm going with 580 for now. Somewhere in the mid to high 500s is what the minimum credit score for FHA is. However, the caveat to that is, will a lender lend to you if your credit score is that low? And that's where the waters get muddy a little bit. I do know of lenders that will lend as low as 600. I know more that go as low as 620. And I know some that go as low as 640. So it just depends. Again, we'll sit down, we'll talk about it. We'll determine where you are versus where you want to be and go from there. But you do not have to have a 700 or 800 credit score to buy a home. You just don't need that. So something we'll talk about one-on-one to get a better idea of where you are and what direction we can point you in. The next question is, how much money should I have saved? Well, it is possible to buy a home with not a lot of money saved. I can tell you that because I did it. I purchased a home through a program called NACA. I did not have a whole lot saved, and they did not even look at my credit. I have no idea what my credit was back then when I bought my house. So it is possible. I do not necessarily recommend it though. So as I said earlier, you should save as much money as you possibly can. There's plenty of rules of thumb you can go by. My mom always taught me to make sure that you have 6 months worth of savings for every bill that you owe on, saved in your savings. That may not be realistic for everybody. So maybe you just have 2 months worth of your income saved. But that is another question that if you sit down with a real estate agent such as myself, as well as a lender, we'll sit on a 3-way call and talk about what it is you're looking at. But I will say, as I tell anybody, no matter where they are in their process towards home ownership, save as much as you possibly can, period. Don't even have an amount. Don't just put it in there. Don't touch it. Act like it doesn't exist. Best word of advice I can give you. All right. So here's another one that's a little tricky. Should I use a local lender or an online lender? It is apparently very easy just to go online, click some buttons, and through an online lender, get a pre-approval and go from there. I will say that there's nothing wrong with that. However, that online lender may not necessarily know your entire situation and may not always necessarily have your best interest at heart. However, local lenders, these are people that we as real estate agents build relationships with. I will speak for myself on this one. I speak with lenders. I find out, what programs they work with, how they operate, how they communicate, things of that nature, because I want to make sure that if I'm going to refer my client to them, that they're going to be taken care of, their questions are going to be answered, they're going to, basically be taken care of. So again, you can go through an online lender, but most of us agents don't have relationships with them, so we don't really know how they operate, what their criteria are. You know what I mean? It's just not. We just don't know. When we're working with local lenders, we're more likely and more able to communicate with them, and they also are going to be more well versed in what the local area provides as far as assistance, rules, regulations, things of that nature, and the market, just like your local realtor. So that is my personal suggestion. Nothing wrong with an online lender, but local lenders, we as real estate agents tend to work better as a team when we have lenders that we know and have built relationships with and can also help our clients. Next question, very important. How do I get down payment assistance? That is going to be through the lender. So going back to that other question, we don't know if the online lender has the ability to provide you with down payment assistance. We just don't know. So again, those are questions I ask of my local lender. Hey, what down payment assistance programs are you working with? What do you have that you can offer clients? There's plenty that you can check on yourself to see what their program rules are and what they offer. We go a little more in depth on that in part 2, so be sure to sign up for that when you get a chance. But it is out there. Most people can qualify for it. And if you can't, again, we just go back to the drawing board and see how we can help you. So those are the frequently asked questions. Now I'm ready for your questions. What questions do you guys have for me? Nothing in the chat. Don't be shy if you have any questions. No question is dumb, like they tell us in school, and you may want to know something that someone else wants to know. While I'm waiting for questions, I'm just going to put my information here. If you want to take that down, feel free to reach out. If you think of a question tomorrow or next week, reach out. I don't mind. I don't bite. And also, don't hesitate to follow me on Instagram or my Facebook page. I would love to link up with you there. And as for the survey, I do like to ask all of my attendees to take a survey. I do this for you. So if I'm missing anything, I need to add something or take it away, I want to know that, because again, my goal is to help as many people become educated home buyers as I possibly can. And the best way I can do that is to get feedback from you on how I can improve, if at all. If there are no improvements, tell me that too, and then I'll keep it the same. That works for me. No questions still? Well, all right. If there are no questions, again, you have my information there. If you think of something later, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to help. Otherwise, thank you all so much for coming. I am glad that I was able to give this information to you today. Hopefully, I'll see you in another one of my courses, and you all have a good rest of the night. Bye-bye.